KPCA-LP, Petaluma, California.
Well. Greetings, Petaluma.
Hey, Petaluma, on a wet Friday.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. This is Two Mooks and a Mic, and that voice over there is Jim Thomas.
Hi, Matt. And that's Matt. I almost said Matt Laree. It's Matt McGuire over there, who is the Mook of Two Mooks and a Mic.
And we are your co-hosts for the next hour, if you can stand to stick with us.
Well, it's a psychiatrist hour, Matt. It's only 59 minutes, so for 57 minutes.
57.
Yeah.
There's inflation for you.
And they're going to charge you for a full hour anyway.
That's right.
Got to pay for their car.
That's right.
So how you been this past week,
Matt?
Well,
you got out in the sunshine for about 20 minutes when it lasted.
I see you got a little sunburn.
Got a little yard work done. That's
good. Yeah, pull a weed.
How about you? How was your week?
It was all sort of a blur, Matt. I don't know. If you ask me what yesterday was like, I can't even tell you what today is.
Really? Isn't retirement great?
It's not just that. It's you have to do everything by Trump, the Trump scale. It's the Trump comparison.
Oh, God.
So I don't know what Trump day it is or what Trump month it is.
It's the Trump nightmare.
It is the
and
Trump
it goes
nightmare.
on. Well, with that, let's just with that entree, let's just jump right in.
Let's jump in.
So
both feet.
It's been this one that we've had some chuckles this week on various things. Along with our nausea that is generated by that creep
and our gritting of teeth.
That's right. Well, so he's flip-flopped a lot lately.
Yes.
He was threatening to close the southern border.
Yep. Totally close it. Not just limit it, but close it. Slam it shut.
Yeah. And, you could see that was a non-starter from the get-go. So just for a couple of stats here, Jim, 15,000 trucks a day cross between the U.S. and Mexico.
And these are big trucks, right?
Yeah, trucks, with goods.
Semi trucks,
exactly.
15,000.
Yeah, and there's $1.6 billion worth of business per day transacted across the border.
And they're not just avocados.
No, and, when the U.S. Chamber of Commerce comes out against something like this, which I will just add, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is about the most rabidly right-wing
They're not known for their liberal policies
in the country. They're they took over where the John Birch Society left off.
Business.
Exactly. Well, they were horrified. It's no, don't do it. Good. So you could see that Trump was going to have to backpedal on that one.
Right. And of course he does. It's like he gets a victory of the Mueller thing that he thinks is a victory.
A putative.
Victory. Yes, it's kind of a Pyrrhic victory.
We'll be talking about that.
Yeah, we sure will. And then immediately once he considers a victory where they have dinner parties and they're hugging each other, and then he just does these crazy things.
And even his allies, if you can call them that, his slaves, his minions, the people that identify with him for whatever twisted reason, they're like in shock and confusion and
shock and all,
blubbering and such. But this, had he closed the border, it would have impacted our food supplies,
avocados,
prices for food. Workers. There's thousands of workers cross the border every day
to work, and then they go back to live in Mexico, to sleep in Mexico.
And it's all legit. And our whole agricultural system is vastly dependent on that. Students go back and forth. I mean, it just goes on and on. But now Trump is like, Mexico's changed, and they're actually stopping some of the immigrants on the southern border. Here's what he says. He says, I'm going to cut off funding. Well, Central America is going to cut off funding because they're not doing anything for us.
Yeah, but Matt, he also calls Central America the three Mexicos.
Yeah, the three Mexican countries.
Right. That's Fox News, the Trump TV.
God. So that was that chuckle. But he says now Mexico is doing something that they stopped 1,000 immigrants at their southern border.
Really?
Well, there's 75,000 people crossed in February.
Yeah.
So Mexico stopped 1,000 of them. Yeah, they're really changed.
Yeah.
Mexico says, we haven't changed a thing.
I was going to say, really?
About?
They haven't done a squat.
Really?
Well, Trump never tells the truth. So
no. And so,
there we go.
And rather than admit that he, said something wrong or made an error.
He never apologizes.
So now he's saying because, they're doing something that's the relationship is now great or something. And he's going,
Lord,
we're going to give them a year, and if not, then we're going to put tariffs on their cars imported into the United States.
So, Matt, how many cars from Mexico are imported?
Well, there's tens of thousands of them, but here's the thing, Jim.
Yeah.
So, he's, of course, like, well, NAFTA is no good. And so he's like, quote unquote, negotiated a replacement for NAFTA that everybody says is essentially the same thing.
He changes the name because it had to do with Obama.
Yeah, exactly. So now he's got the Trump NAFTA version. It has to be ratified still by all three countries.
Yeah.
One of the primary stipulations in that current agreement is that both Canada and Mexico will be exempt from tariffs on cars. So even his own bloody, stupid effort to revamp NAFTA, he has not a clue of what it's about.
He is just an idiot.
What a moron.
He is a maroon.
Oh, he's a moron.
Yeah, that too. Jeez, man.
Well, and then you've got the Affordable Care Act that he was like, oh, the Republicans are going to be the party of healthcare. You watch. It's going to happen in a hurry.
Be big and beautiful.
Yeah, well, within a week, he was like having to eat that crow, too.
Yeah, Mitch McConnell was the one who said, hey, Trump, if you're going to go there, I am not backing you on that because it's political suicide, which, of course, we hope, a little applause there, that the Democrats are going, excuse me, what did you say?
Yeah.
We can use that. Thank you very much.
So now he has to, when everybody, all the Republican leadership said, no, you can't do that. That's, suicide political.
Right.
Oh, okay. So now he's going, well, we're going to do it after we take back the Senate.
In 2020.
In 2020.
Right, take back the Senate, then take back the House, still keep the Senate, and I'll be elected for 4 more years.
Yeah.
That's what he says.
By telling people, we're going to cut, you 20 million people that just barely got your insurance in the last few years, kiss it goodbye and vote for me.
Yeah, right, because we have a better one in place, which of course they don't.
Of course, and that's the hilarity of the thing is that for 8 years the Republicans in control of Congress couldn't, had hundreds of hearings to try to kill
couldn't do anything.
Obamacare and never came up with anything
do
close.
Nothing. The do nothing Congress.
The best they could do was come up with junk insurance that doesn't cover a huge swath of what you need in insurance, and the courts just threw it out and said you can't
insurance.
do it.
Right, the cheap insurance. The only thing they got rid of was the requirement that you pay into it. I think they modified that.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, the whole thing was triggered because when the Republicans said they eliminated the tax penalty for not signing up for insurance, that gave that right-wing judge in Texas, a George Bush judge,
to get rid of everything.
Who said that it was like the whole ACA was unconstitutional.
Right, so he ruled that it has to be all totally thrown out.
Yeah, and this is one of where Trump, just blows his own supporters' minds because he says, "Oh, we're going to support that, right?" And and then it's like, "You Republicans come up with a better plan," and it's like, you didn't notice the last 8 years, did you,
Matt?
Donnie boy?
It's like his arguments are like someone trying to walk on marbles. You don't know where your legs are going to go. You don't even know what direction you're going to go, and you don't know whether you're going to be able to stand up for more than a couple of seconds.
Yeah, well, anyway,
yes, that's our president.
That's our president.
Yeah.
So. Of course, the truth of the matter is Trump and the Republicans hate the Affordable Care Act because our black president was the creator and
the best president in our lifetimes. Yes, and supporter of it.
Yeah, one of them. It's there's some debate there.
Well, maybe Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
Okay.
But certainly, it was a signature step forward.
He did it. He got it done.
Improvement. Yeah, against all odds. Against
even Hillary couldn't do that.
Republican resistance. Right.
He did it anyway. Yeah. So and people and Matt, to tell you the truth, the people, both blue and red, love it. They love it.
Yeah, the longer they have it, the more they realize how good it is.
Yeah, you go to the red states and you say, hey, we're going to take away your Obamacare. They go, take it away. But if you say this is what it's going to entail, they go, no. I'd like the cap, the funding cap, and also the pre-existing conditions. Yeah, I don't want to go back to the way it was.
The 100 million people with pre-existing conditions in this country.
100 million people, that's right. And also you can't be denied insurance, which is nice.
Exactly.
Before they could.
Yeah, and a lifetime cap on
expense. And a lifetime cap, that's right.
Suddenly it's like, wait, no, don't take that.
Don't take it away. Yeah. Right. So, and that's one of the reasons why the House won in the blue tsunami.
That's right. Now, that's been fun to watch. Well, you had a couple. Things
here we go. This is from Slate. Okay,
Slate,
let's
hear this.
And it's called "It's been a tremendous week for the dignity and influence of the office of the presidency. Quite a doozy of the last 4 days here with President Trump." Here, news broke that a 32-year-old Chinese woman was arrested over the weekend after having successfully talked her way onto the grounds of Mar-a-Lago, the president's Florida resort, while carrying a malware-loaded thumb drive.
Yeah, how about that?
The comments were made by a woman indicated that she may have intended to attend events at the resort, which has been promoted by Cindy Yang. And Cindy Yang, as you remember, Matt, was the businesswoman and frequent Mar-a-Lago patron who founded the spa at which New England's Patriot owner Robert Kraft was recently accused of soliciting prostitution.
Oh, excuse me, madame.
No, that's right. Yang no longer owns the spa, but she has other ones, apparently. So the police are looking at it. That was one. House Democrats disclosed the test.
Well, but just to add to that, so, what's happening is that every time Trump goes down to Mar-a-Lago, it puts this huge burden on the Secret Service. Now, normally when, presidents go on vacation or leave the White House, they go to more isolated places. It's easy to for crowd control.
It can be contained.
Here, he's like making the Secret Service support his business, his private enterprise, they're supposed to vet people coming in and out. Now, there's hundreds of club members at Mar-a-Lago, and then there's people that come and go and workers and all that stuff.
Right.
So it's hugely expensive.
Yes,
on the taxpayer.
And the Secret Service says we can't do this. We can't protect them adequately.
And this woman, it's like she got in because one of the staff said, "Oh, I think she's like the daughter of one of our members."
Well, friend of Yang, the other woman.
And so and she goes and is tootling around.
Yeah, and not only that, but the residents of where Mar-a-Lago is are furious because every time Trump comes down, they have to close the roads, close the bridges, and just make it really inconvenient for them. Yeah. They don't like it. Okay, next. House Democrats disclosed the testimony of a White House whistleblower who says that the Trump administration's political appointees have issued security clearances to approximately 25 individuals, including 2 senior officials who appear to be Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump, whose applications were initially denied by career staffers because of, and this is quoting, serious disqualifying issues involving foreign influence, conflicts of interest concerning personal conduct, financial problems, drug use, and criminal conduct.
Oh, never mind. You're a friend of mine. You should have security clearance.
Friend of the band. Yeah, and this woman, Matt, she is, I think she has dwarfism, and she blew the whistle before. She's a career government employee.
Yeah, worked in the White House under several presidents.
25 years.
Yeah.
And she blew the whistle earlier this year and was punished by that because she claims her direct supervisor would start putting things that she needed to get up on a high shelf that she could not reach.
Oh, that's mean.
It is mean, and it's discriminatory. Yeah. So she has a right to complain about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that this is going to be a big investigation and a big blowing up.
You would hope so, but once again, I mean, all the rules of the road have changed under Trump.
Yes,
and so
have.
Can we get traction here? We should in a case like this. I mean, where's all those rabid, war hawk Republicans who are always worried about our, the nation's security? Well, now they're all buddies with Putin.
Yeah,
so
that's right. So anyone can get a clearance, and Trump says, "Oh, I want them to have it," and they get it. Yeah. No problems at all. Okay, number 3. Trump said in response to a request issued by the House Ways and Means Committee, I think you're going to talk about this a little bit, that his tax returns are under audit, which is an excuse for not releasing them that he has been making for 3 years and is dubious both legally, because nothing prevents an individual from making their own tax returns public, even if they're being audited, and practically, because he's never provided any actual evidence that an audit is ongoing.
Exactly. Well, let me flesh that out.
Yeah.
So the Democrats have demanded his returns from 2013 to 2018. Woo. They sent a letter to the head of the IRS demanding it, and I think it's by today.
Good.
And that the head of the Ways and Means Committee, which is Richard Neal, he says that Congress has a duty to conduct oversight, oversight over compliance, and they asked the IRS to provide this stuff by April 10th is when the date is.
Okay, April 10th.
So, and he says he will refuse. They're asking for both his personal and business returns. Good. He makes the claim that they're under audit.
Yeah.
Now, the IRS is under Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin. Yeah, Munchkin. Which puts him in a very interesting, awkward position. Because the law says the Treasury Secretary shall turn over the records, not may.
Or will. Shall is even stronger.
Yes,
I shall return, says MacArthur.
Now, they also want the records of his revocable trust. Now, that's the umbrella organization that controls and owns, hundreds of others of his businesses.
Yeah.
There's another umbrella organization called DTTM Operations LLC, a limited liability corporation.
Yeah, okay.
Now, they manage all the Trump name licensing,
like his whiskey and steaks and stuff like that,
and then other LLCs. So they're looking for a big heaping pile of information.
Yeah, and of course the Republicans are saying, well, if they allow the IRS to release his tax returns, they can do it to any individual in the country, and that's just wrong.
Well, then that law has been in place since like 1924. They had a lot of time to complain about it before.
And have they ever done it?
No.
I don't think they've done it to anyone else, any private citizen. No. They
won't, it required their tax.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure they have over the years. I'm sure they have. I mean,
Okay, but if they have, it hasn't reached the same status and radar on our radar.
They've never asked the president, but then we've never had a president since Nixon who would refuse to.
Again, the same president's really hard to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, next. The Washington Post and New York Times reported that members of Robert Mueller's special counsel team have been telling associates that their findings regarding Trump's conduct were more, quote, troubling and, quote, alarming than was conveyed by Attorney General William Barr in the summary Barr issued on March 24th. Barr has defended Trump's Russia-related conduct on multiple occasions before Trump nominated him to be Attorney General.
Yes, that's right.
Speak about that.
Yeah. Okay. So, so these members said, they had put together these other summaries that they provided to Barr. Barr did not disclose any of them. Barr is now saying, oh, well, they have sensitive grand jury information that has to be redacted before that. But you've got the House Judiciary Committee, Jerry Nadler.
Love that guy.
Yeah, he's doing good. He's a Democrat from New York. He made it clear that on Wednesday that he did not trust Barr's characterization of what Mueller's team found. He says the Constitution charges Congress with holding the president accountable for alleged official misconduct.
Yeah, okay.
That job requires us to evaluate the evidence for ourselves.
How about that?
Not the Attorney General's summary, not a substantially redacted synopsis, but the full report and the underlying evidence.
Bingo. So we don't want a cliff notes of the cliff notes.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
So,
and one of the things what Barr said when in his summaries, he never quoted a full sentence from what Mueller has said. So he is just
and here's the chuckle on this one, Jim. When Barr's letter came out and Trump's like, yeah, see, no collusion, blah blah blah.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, you can release the report. I'm fine with that. I don't care. So now Jerry Nadler's saying, all right, we want the whole report. And so what does Trump do? He goes and attacks Nadler on his tweets.
How dare you do that?
Hello.
But I think you read this morning, Matt, we talked about it a little bit, that Lindsey Graham is for the release of the report.
Yeah,
I don't know there's something going on with that. I don't trust Lindsey Graham as far as I can throw.
No, I don't either.
And I think he weighs
a rat jumping off the ship. You could only hope.
You can hope so. Okay, next. Trump said in a White House appearance that his father had been born in Germany, which is something he has said at least 3 times now, despite it being an established matter, a public record that his father was born in New York City.
How about that?
Yeah, and apparently Angela Merkel has heard about that.
Apparently she's furious and wants an apology.
Well, she's not going to get it because Trump doesn't apologize.
No, that's right.
Okay, next. Trump has told reporters that he is nominating Herman Cain, a Fox News pundit and former fast food pizza executive who dropped out of the 2012 presidential race after multiple women accused him of sexual harassment to a seat on the Federal Reserve Board.
My recollection of Herman Cain in public debates and things was that he is a not very intelligent fellow.
No, he's low IQ.
Yeah.
That's right.
But that serves Trump's purposes, doesn't it?
Yes, because...
Loyal and stupid.
Loyal and stupid and slightly corrupt. And also the whole thing with the Fed, Matt, he doesn't get what's going on with the Fed. He thinks that if they raise rates, it's going to increase his amount of percentages he's going to have to repay his loans at.
So he thinks that, and, of course, the Fed is, their mandate is to, manage the economy to prevent runaway inflation, also deflation, and also to promote employment, full employment. Now, that's the part
that's right.
Finally got some traction under Obama. Because for years and years under Republican presidents, it was all about juicing the returns for Wall Street. Who cared about working stiffs? But now he's so Trump's understanding of is like, it's going to cost me more on my variable loans. I'm against increases. I don't care. He's it's slowing down growth of the economy.
Yeah, they're managing
the growth.
Yeah, it's his interest rates. Okay, next, Trump speculated at a dinner event that the noise produced by wind turbines causes cancer, a specious claim for there is no empirical. You know what I mean? You get it. It's not true.
Now that's a juicy one. Yeah.
Wow.
I saw a little bit of the video of him. He was talking to some Republican gathering.
Probably oil company.
And he's going, if you love birds, don't walk under the.
Yeah, it's a graveyard, right? It's a killing field. Bald eagles.
And it's like, yes, in the past, windmills have been hazardous to birds. They have radically reduced that.
They changed the frequency, and
it's like what so coal is not deadly to breathe the fumes or be around the dust or to mine
it doesn't give you cancer, it just rips out your lungs.
It just give you black lung disease.
It gives you cancer of the lungs, but yes. Right. Okay, next. Donald Trump tweeted a video of prospective Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden edited so as to depict Biden massaging himself inappropriately. Wow, and we're not really going to go there because it's just the kettle of worms. But anyway, Trump himself, it's like the kettle calling the pot even blacker than he is.
Yeah, and this is what
it's nuts.
The president of the United States
Thank you.
Is spending his time on.
Right. And that's what Biden, he did a response to that tweet saying, so I see that you're having a lot of time governing the country, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and there's the ongoing debate that it's better for Trump to, be diddling around with, idiocy minutia rather than actually trying to do harm.
Right.
But, then you see what's going on by all his agencies and what McConnell's doing with the filibuster and stuff, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Right, the judge appointees and all that.
Exactly.
Okay, so of course, many of our presidents have at various times engaged in corruption, debasement of the office, recklessness, and clueless governance. What makes this era special is that those things are always happening, all happening at the same time, interspersed with random baffling events like the president lying about or forgetting what hemisphere his father was born in. And this is potentially going to be happening for another 6 years.
Oh, bite your tongue. Let's say
ouch.
A year and a half. Here.
Let's say, anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, that's from Slate.
Ridiculous. And that's just a litany of the idiocy. Well, and then there's the speculation that Trump is, tilting into dementia.
Yeah. There are some people, a couple of psychiatrists, and they have eschewed making analyses just from what they've seen.
Yeah, publicly.
Without him being a patient. But these two psychiatrists said, we're going to do it anyway because it's so important.
Yeah,
and
because it's a risk.
Right. And they're seeing early onset of dementia. His mistaking, couldn't find the word for origins. He called it oranges.
3 times he used the word oranges instead of origins.
Oranges. It's hard to say. I tried to say it too, and I finally got it, I think.
Oranges.
Orange, you glad I didn't say orange? Orange? Anyway, so Trump, that's one of the things, and he's been having some difficulty.
Yeah, well, it's... He's never been a wordsmith, you know that. So.
No,
Jim. Whoa.
Sorry,
hey,
just hit my head on something.
So the National Rifle Association was fighting the renewal of the Violence Against Women Act.
Now, okay, why?
The Violence Against Women Act is a piece of legislation that has to be renewed every few years.
Okay.
It expired when Trump forced the close down of the government. Right, and it's usually been passed by bipartisan healthy margin. Right, so and it provides hundreds of millions of dollars to in grant funds to programs to assist victims of domestic violence and stalking and murder, et cetera. Right.
Good.
The NRA said that it was too broad, and this particular what happened, just to take another step back. when it expired during the government shutdown, Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats said, hey, here's our chance to improve this a little bit.
That's good.
Tweak it. The VAWA, as it's called for short, actually has what they call the boyfriend loophole. So it's like you can get an injunction and force people who you were married to or the father of your child or various close relations like that to be prohibited from purchasing guns.
Makes sense.
The boyfriends weren't included. Stalkers, et cetera, were not included. So the Democrats said, all right, let's, buff this thing up.
Thank you.
And
close a loophole.
And of course, the NRA said it says it's too broad. And I'm just going to read you some quotes from the spokeswoman for the NRA, Jennifer Baker.
Oh, man, she's a piece of work.
She said that, quote, many of these so-called offenses, and I'm using air quotes here, the behavior that would qualify as a stalking offense is often not violent or threatening.
What?
Oh, they're friendly stalkers.
They're not threatening?
Really. She goes on to say it involves no personal contact whatsoever.
Whoa.
End quote. She argues that the new provision is, quote, too broad and ripe for abuse, end quote. She goes on and says, like if you were sending harassing messages to somebody on Facebook, to somebody you never met or somebody you dated 5 years ago, she said, how it's written right now, you could be convicted for a misdemeanor stalking offense for a tweet that causes someone emotional distress. Oh, those wimps. And
did she say, oh, those
No,
ones?
she didn't.
Okay.
And then you'd be prohibited from owning a firearm.
Oh, my
Is that like
man.
sick and twisted
It's
or what?
sick and twisted. Sick and twisted players. That's what we should call our show. Yes. I mean, what planet is she on?
Really? And so it's like somebody's sending harassing, message on Facebook or tweeting or something, and you're scared, and he should still be able to have a gun.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Wow.
I mean, it's just like innate.
Well, that follows with the Florida stand my ground, stand my ground law, right?
Yeah. Now, to the credit, the House did pass the now 223 to 158. A huge margin. So now it's going to go to the Senate, but we'll see what happens there.
Wow, Matt, we live in crazy times. Wow. Okay, I have a little fast poll here. 63% of voters who support President Trump believe that white people face a lot of discrimination, and 67% do not see white nationalism as a threat. 39% of all voters now believe Trump supports white nationalism. That's good, right? 39% is not that much.
60% still need to wake up to that reality.
Yeah, exactly. While only 19% say he opposes it.
Wow.
Well, I don't think he opposes it. I think he's for it.
Yeah, he is for it. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Oh, Americans.
Yeah,
oh,
right.
You
We are
Americans.
so SCREW.
Now, State Attorney General Xavier Becerra had asked federal judge. Well, a federal judge in San Diego, a George W. Bush appointee, ruled that California's law from the year 2000 banning high-capacity magazines and the law's a refinement of that law passed in 2016 and a ballot initiative were unconstitutional.
Why, Matt?
That it infringed on a person's Second Amendment rights to bear arms.
Of course.
Now, this judge, made his decision because he heard of one woman who fought off a home invader, and she had a high-capacity magazine, was able to kill that guy, whereas a couple other people got murdered because they didn't have high-capacity magazines.
So it's the magazine, the lack of number of bullets. Well, I think
that's his decision making.
Yeah,
now, Becerra,
doesn't make sense.
He did ask the judge to put his ruling in abeyance because it's being appealed to the Ninth Circuit Court,
and the judge did
appeals court, and the judge did yesterday say, okay, because immediately upon that judge's ruling, high-capacity magazine gun dealers and sellers from other states were like tweeting and emailing and sending all kinds of ads. Buy now.
While the law is down, get it now.
Exactly. So I mean,
so
that's
Matt, as somebody wrote in today's Press Democrat, they said you don't need a high capacity magazine. You need shooting lessons.
Really?
Anyway.
Yeah, it's just crazy, right?
It is crazy. It's nuts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so in speaking of such things, Australia just passed a significant piece of legislation that is requiring social media platforms to rapidly remove, quote, abhorrent violent material, end quote, from their platforms, including videos showing terrorist attacks, murders, rapes, kidnapping. Good. And they're saying if they don't do it expeditiously, that the executives will be facing jail time as well as significant fines that could add up to as much as 10% of their annual profit.
Wow.
Now, that should get those guys' attention.
It should get their attention. And Matt, what do New Zealand and Australia have that we ain't got?
Common sense.
Common sense.
Yeah, and they don't have the NRA.
And they don't. But the NRA is trying down there, but they haven't got a foothold yet.
It does raise freedom of speech issues, and that's been both. That's a double-edged sword here. Of course, we treasure our freedom of speech.
We do.
If in some countries, two Mooks couldn't be in the game.
We'd be doing it in the pokey.
That's right.
So, Matt, well, wait a minute. The freedom of speech thing, isn't that along the same lines of having the right to scream fire in a movie theater?
Well, that's the right. You don't have a right to scream fire in a crowded theater, right? However, but the Facebook, YouTube, some of these companies are using algorithms to try to weed out, ugly, racist, violent, nationalistic type
successfully?
Blogs. Well, to some degree, but they also, it's kind of like ham-handed because there have been some alternative news organizations, progressive, and that have not violated any terms, but they've been dragged down with it. So, the real experts are saying that you actually have to have people doing this. You can start with an algorithm, but you need to be, it needs to be reviewed by somebody who can actually make a judgment. Right.
That makes sense. Matt, I read a story about the people who work for Facebook who actually do the judging of the videos. And and it's incredibly stressful.
Oh, I bet.
Seeing this stuff, I mean, it's just
all day long.
All day long, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
What they see, it's the worst thing you can imagine, and they have to see it and then say no, and just
and then and then the ones that would be really hard are the ones that are in the gray areas, right?
That's right.
And so do you make an error, on the side of caution, or do you err on the side of freedom of speech?
Yeah,
I mean, so there is a tension there that this is an issue that has not been fully addressed.
No,
but I do like it that Australia has basically said, okay, heretofore in America, the platforms have said, hey, look, we're like the telephone lines. We're not responsible for what's spoken over those lines.
That's right. We just provide the conduit for the stuff to be.
But then you get
sent.
things like, for instance, Facebook. Once again, in the news with not good news. They over 500 million Facebook accounts were left up on a publicly accessible cloud computing server, right? And so 540 million accounts with names, emails, your interest, your likes, your dislikes, and more. And in some cases, a very limited portion, but in some cases, 22,000 passwords. Right.
Good Lord, my head is hurting, man.
So it's like, okay, if Facebook, can't control, it's like, well, if you're going to use the analogy, we're like the phone companies and we're not responsible that goes over the phone lines. Well, you are responsible to land the call where it's supposed to go and not let everybody else hear it.
Thank you. Right.
So, this needs to be addressed. This is why we need government, and these companies.
They need oversight.
Yeah, Facebook, Google, YouTube. These companies are bigger than some countries in the world. Lots of countries actually. Yeah. And so you remember this just comes down 1 year after the whole Cambridge Analytica scandal, where they had access to 87 million users' data illegally, inappropriately. Yeah. But now 540 million. And how did this happen? Well, Facebook has like millions of app developers. Yeah. And it was one of their app developers that, we'll just put all this up here on this computer. Oops.
And forgot to encrypt it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just like, this is the Wild West frontier. Yeah, we have to figure out the proper relationship between freedom of speech and the banning of violence and the inciting violence, right?
And one of the things,
then you need somebody. These large corporations need to have daily oversight.
Absolutely oversight. And this is where they're saying that white supremacy now is no longer a local matter. It's an international matter because of platforms like that, social media.
It's gained strength through networking.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and check this out. So 25 prominent artificial intelligence experts sent a letter to Amazon saying that they need to stop selling their facial recognition software. Now, we've reported on this before.
Yes.
This is facial recognition software that's cheap to buy, and it's been bought by a number of police departments around the country, right?
Sure.
So check this out. They're saying your stuff is crappy and it doesn't work right, and you shouldn't be selling it. There are others, Microsoft and people that make facial recognition software, and when AI experts braced them and said, hey, you've got problems, they've made efforts to fix it.
Good.
Facebook has just sat there, with its thumb up its
its nose.
And what they have found is that the software is biased against women and people of color, and they have huge error rates. They mistake women for men 19% of the time.
That's unacceptable.
And they mistake darker skinned women for men 31% of the time. That's like stuff doesn't work.
No, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But to the credit of the worker bees, the coders, the ones who are slinging the code, Matt, they knew what Google is doing as far as the AI facial recognition, and they walked out. They staged a massive protest.
Oh, that was when Google had a contract with the
military.
Department.
That's right. And these guys said no. One of the things that Google's founders said, their motto was "Do no harm,"
right,
or "Don't be a ick."
That was when Google had a contract to help refine drones to recognize their
facial
targets.
recognition. Now, the flip side of this is apparently in China, they are going through AI like gangbusters, and their goal is to have facial recognition of every single citizen.
Yeah.
So as soon as you walk out of your house, they know exactly where you are, where you're going, and where you've been.
Yeah, that's getting real resistance in China because where they've deployed it, it totally scares the bejesus out of people.
Yeah,
right?
No kidding. And so where China goes, is that where we're going to?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
So that's, Wild West country there.
It is Wild West. Speaking of Wild West, when a California man, this is actually in Santa Rosa, Matt, he was forced by a neighbor to lower his fence. He got even by posing naked mannequins having a lewd party in his backyard. His name is Jason Windus of Santa Rosa, had made the fence 6 feet high so his dogs couldn't jump over, but a city neighborhood complained. But a neighbor complained to the city, which made him lower it to 3 feet. So he set up 6 unclothed mannequins around a set of garden furniture. And he says they wanted me to tear down my fence to see inside my yard, and now they get to.
Yeah, somebody's stolen a couple of those mannequins.
I heard he says he's going to buy them, buy new ones. He's going to replace them.
Yeah. Hey, touch of good news here.
Let's hear it.
The first black openly gay woman was elected for Chicago's mayor.
Woohoo! Yeah. And I was so shocked to read that and surprised, delightfully surprised.
And she was running against another black woman. So whoever won, it was going to be at least a black woman. This woman is openly gay, and she is actually was the outsider. She's not had office before.
Really?
She is a former federal prosecutor.
Okay, so she's got the chops. But
she won by 73.7%.
Whoa, that's a landslide.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
Her name is Lori Lightfoot, and she ran against Tony Preckwinkle. Now, Preckwinkle was the president of the board of kind of like what we would call the board of supervisors.
Okay, yeah.
And had been on the Chicago City Council for many years.
So she has experience too.
But I think people saw her somewhat as an insider, even though she was a black woman.
Yeah.
And of course, Chicago has been a good old white boys political machine,
for sure. Rahm Emanuel
and the Daley family, and one of the Daleys had actually run in the primary and just got trounced. But part of what this is a backlash against Rahm Emanuel, the current mayor, who decided not to run again because he knew he was going to get his hat handed to him. He this is, you recall, the murder of Laquan McDonald, the black teenager who was shot 7 times in the back when he was running away from a Chicago cop, and of course the cop was quote unquote exonerated.
Right.
But Rahm Emanuel had prevented the release of the police body camera film until after he was reelected.
Oh, my God.
And that was like over a year.
Yeah.
And so people
Can you say corruption?
Yeah, people were just furious.
Well, good. I'm glad that they got revenge, and I'm glad they got this woman who seems like it's going to be a breath of fresh air for them.
Yeah, so that's hopeful.
That's
and then,
good.
We've talked about the American Legislative Exchange Council here from time to time.
ALEC, right?
ALEC. Now, that's the sleeper group that's funded in large part by the Koch brothers, who make their money in the oil and dirty energy business.
Yes.
They, in the last election, lost 366 politicians that were members. And these guys...
You mean that got voted out or not reelected?
Exactly, didn't run again.
Or didn't run
And so these guys work with everybody, on the state and federal level, and even below the state level, I think, in some cases, to try to model legislation that the electeds can take back and pass.
Interesting.
And they're always like, it's anti-environmentalist, human rights sort of legislation.
Yeah.
But so they've lost enough people in the last elections, and several large corporations, including AT&T and Verizon, who never should have been there in the first place, were, that they have canceled their annual Spring Task Force Summit. Now, they've held that every year for the past 10 years at very high-end hotels. And, this is how ALEC rolls. They bankroll you, if you're elected, they take you and your family on expensive trips to lovely places to have these conferences.
And you do something for me then.
Exactly. Right. And in these conferences, in the Task Force Summit, what they do is that they put you together with all kinds of lobbyists, and the electeds and the lobbyists each have equal votes, and then they vote on, the legislation that they want to promote. And so, it's basically a form of, quasi-legal collusion.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, so I mean,
for bribery.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's been a form of legitimized, quote unquote, abuse of the system since ALEC has been formed. So that's a bit of nice news that people have dropped out. And
what was
I know
the number
that
again, 300?
366.
366.
And I know I've signed, petition after petition to corporations and stuff going, drop out of ALEC.
Yeah, anti-ALEC.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, good. Well, a Japanese company has unveiled the prototype of a wearable gadget that allows fathers to mimic the act of breastfeeding their kids, Matt. Now's your chance. It's called the Father's Nursing Assistant. It's made by Dentsu, is shaped like a female bosom, with one fake breast housing a tank for milk or formula, and the other sporting a silicone nipple. The device can also vibrate and be heated to simulate a mother's body temperature. They say, we aim to decrease the amount of burden on mothers and increase the amount of time infants sleep by enabling fathers to breastfeed, the company said.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting at the beach.
Can you put beer in there?
I do whiskey single malt, thank you very much. I'm surprised only one has the nipple and the other one have a nipple too?
I don't know. I haven't
it has
seen
to,
it. Yeah.
Right? Oh. I'll do more research, Matt. Well, I'll bring in a prototype. We can wear them on the show.
I'm all for everything natural, Jim. Thanks.
Well, it's kind of natural.
No, it's totally. Yeah, well, you know what that reminds me of?
Uh-oh.
That reminds me of the cat lover's cat grooming tongue. That if you can get this and you wear it on your tongue, and you can then lick your cat.
Oh my God!
As a sign of affection and grooming.
I think this is a family-oriented show, Matt. Let's keep it.
I'll tell you, I think this new bosom is going to have as much success as the.
I think you get two bosoms, one with a silicone nipple and the other with a container for warm formula, which could be whiskey or wine, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. Wow, it opens up many possibilities.
I just don't know if
Friday,
breastfeeding from a male is not that appealing to me personally. It may appeal to others, our listeners. We're open,
Yeah, we're open to it.
Cool.
Okay,
moving on.
Yeah.
So the Democrats okayed in their one of the House Energy and Commerce Committee okayed the net neutrality bill to go to a floor vote next week. Good. This would restore the net neutrality rules that the FAA had under Obama. Ajit Pai, who was like a pimp for the.
He is a pimp
for the cable companies. Basically, destroyed that. So
once again, Matt, do a real quick synopsis, please, of the advantages of having net neutrality.
Well, so net neutrality treats your internet access like a utility service. So it says that everybody's entitled to it. The content or whoever runs that service does not get to charge you based on content or use you as a captive audience to squeeze more out of some than out of others.
So direct you to their website instead of another website.
Yeah, or it's like, so if Verizon is an internet service provider and they don't like that Netflix is taking up a lot of bandwidth, then they can charge you more for Netflix. And so this is really just a parity issue. It's a fairness issue.
Which it should be.
Yeah, but
should be free and open.
Comcast and Verizon, those guys, they've been just trying to kill this and continue.
Of course.
The committee took 9.5 hours to get to the point where they finally, approved the thing. and now it's going to go to a vote. And I think it's going to be, from the emails I'm getting, it looks like it may well pass in the House, but we'll see where that goes after that.
It seems like right now the House is where good bills go to die. Because they pass these things, it's like, yay, and then go to the Senate, and Mitch McConnell has his iron grip on everything, and it's like the turtle is stopping everything.
Yeah. Well, and then, the Republicans call the restoration of Obama's rules socialism, and...
this is net neutrality still?
Yeah, I mean... So
socialism.
It's like everything they don't like. It's like when I was growing up, everything bad by the Republicans and all the demons that conjured up from their fear was communism. Well, now it's socialism.
It's another ism.
Yeah, so it's just baloney.
It is baloneyism.
Yeah. Jim, let's talk a little bit about the filibuster, because this week the Republican Senate voted to allow the debate on executive nominations and circuit court judges to be debate reduced from 30 hours to 2 hours.
Okay, now, so that's just railroading things through.
Yeah,
basically.
Exactly. Now, with the 30-hour requirement, a judge, somebody is proffered as an appointee, and people start digging up the information.
They have some time.
Yeah. And so a number of really hideous nominees that would even offend Republicans. Brett Kavanaugh being a classic
But even
example.
worse than that.
And worse than that.
And people
have been able to be stopped because they had time to dig up this information and bring it to the floor during the 30-hour debate.
And those people have withdrawn their nomination because they realize, whoa, maybe I'm not qualified.
Exactly. Or they won't get the votes. Well, so now they've reduced that to 2 hours. And of course, Trump has just packed the courts.
Yep. Mitch McConnell. And the Heritage Foundation.
Yeah. And so of course, the whole thing started with Harry Reid when he was the Democratic
that's right.
head of the Senate. And he got rid of the 60-vote supermajority for Supreme Court judges because the Republicans at the time were just completely frozen all of Obama's appointments.
Remember that? No matter what Obama tried to do by working with the Republicans, they didn't
putting up more and more moderate or conservative,
like Bill Clinton did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. And they just wouldn't go along with it. They hated him. And I think it was just clear racism. But
absolutely.
But so. Out of frustration and desperation, Harry Reid, did that. But now people are like, well, there's a slippery slope.
He should have put it back.
He should have put it back, before the Senate changed. And so now McConnell has taken that and really taken it to the extremes. Yeah. Because now it's like, we can see where people like Kavanaugh get appointed.
So, Matt, the filibuster is a way for people to slow the nomination down, if not stop it altogether, correct?
Well, the filibuster, takes, so it's to slow it down or provide information that people need to have.
So back up to the 30 hours.
Yeah, it may not be available on short notice.
Yeah, and the filibuster is not the way it used to be with Jimmy Stewart and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, where you stand up and you talk for as long as you talk. That's a filibuster, and you can actually stall it by doing that.
Yeah.
It's changed its form. You don't have to do that. I think somebody always has to be present in the chamber, but I don't think they have to talk.
Oh,
Isn't that correct?
I don't know. I think they may have to talk, and there may be somebody present, but it may not have to be. You can change people. So I forget the details on that, Jim. But the pros and cons are that, so under Obama, when you had just a completely recalcitrant Republican Senate, what do you do? I mean, so we saw that his last, Supreme Court nominee was stonewalled for 11 months.
Merrick Garland.
Yeah, exactly, right. And did not get appointed. Now, that was a complete, just a complete ripoff and a screw you to the American public.
Yeah, middle finger.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, if you just had simple majority, cloture where you can close the ongoing debate. So I think the filibuster is that in some cases, like in this case we're talking about, there's a limit of 30 hours reduced to 2.
Okay.
I think in the filibuster there is no limit as long as
somebody's talking.
Yeah.
About it.
Now I need a primer on this, a refresher, because I forget.
But you got
the details.
It seems like the general idea.
But so people warned Harry Reid, if you do that, then if the Republicans get control, then they're going to
do the same thing,
and they're going to be worse. I think probably Harry Reid didn't think that the Republicans would get control, but there you go.
Oh man. Well, interesting that you say this, because I got an email, fundraising email, but also a status update from Elizabeth Warren, and she's talking about she is very strongly against the filibuster. She wants to get rid of it, which surprises me because to me it's a kind of a murky thing. Why would she want to be against it? And do we need to have it?
I guess you could. So the Senate is has these rules and traditions over a couple hundred years that have made it a more deliberative, more staid body than the House.
Supposedly.
Now, the House is more responsive in some ways because everybody can speak up and gets their 2 cents in there. And so this would make it more like the House. Now, you can see that there's some benefit to having the 2 different approaches and some balance.
Right.
But on the other hand, if a Senate, Senate has rules like if a person doesn't, want, if there's going to be like a judge appointed in their state and one of the 2 senators doesn't like it, they can put a hold on it. But they can do that indefinitely, and they can actually do it anonymously.
Oh.
And so, there's
blowback.
things like that that are really kind of too obscure and no accountability.
Right.
So then if you didn't have any filibuster, then it's straight out, punch it out politics. So I don't know.
I can see Elizabeth Warren doing that. Absolutely. She is not afraid for a fight.
And she's smart and she's well prepared.
And she's thought about this. So,
yeah. So it'd be interesting to see what
so stay tuned, everybody. See whether you're for it or against it, and let your representative know.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see. Now, let's see.
Well, here's a biblical prophecy. It's a bad week for that, Matt, because after thousands of poisonous baby buffalo toads suddenly descended on Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, I just see a massive amount of toads or frogs everywhere, covering every square inch, said resident Jennifer Quasha. You can't even walk through the grass without stepping on one. And these are poisonous, Matt, so don't lick those buffalo toads.
Well, new research shows that time's running out to save the Great Barrier Reef off of Australia. The bleaching, that's been happening over the last, on and off for the last 10 years due to warm water from, climate disruption. They need like about 10 years to recuperate, but by 2035, those are going to be happening every 5 years, and by 2044, it's going to be happening every year.
Not good. Climate change.
And they cover 133,000 square miles. And generate, $4.5 billion a year in income to Australia. But this is one of the penalties we're going to have to pay. But, Jim, I want to talk, we're getting short on time. I want to talk about a couple of local things.
Good.
One of them is that County Sheriff Mark Essick is now going to start releasing the police records of misconduct and serious use of force, which are required by Senate Bill 1421 that the public passed.
Fan my brow, man.
And, of course, many of the police unions are totally against that.
Of course they are.
Going to embarrass a couple of them.
Yeah. Right.
Good. But Essick was saying, well, the unions are suing, and so I don't know if the courts rule this way. If I put the information out, I can't get it back. Well, so the Ninth Circuit or the state appeals court basically said, look, your case has no merit whatsoever. So he says he's going to start releasing that. The Santa Rosa Police Department has resisted and has not yet said they're going to release it. The Press Democrat and other news organizations formed a statewide group to sue for the that information. So good for them because that is the kind of accountability and reporting we want to see.
Yeah, I agree.
And so once the appeals court, the First District Court of Appeals, made their final ruling, Essick is going to go along with it.
Good.
Now,
like that.
There's the First Amendment Project, a group out of Oakland, threatened a suit to the county this week, saying that if they didn't turn over that information by today, they were going to sue, and that actually, I'm sure. Essick is saying, well, no, that's not having an impact on me. But I'm sure that had something to do with it.
Yeah.
And you remember John Mutz, who ran for sheriff against Essick?
Yes,
We've
I
had
do.
him in here on the show.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Yeah.
So he's actually a spokesman for the Sonoma Citizens for Transparency in Government.
Good.
Which this First Amendment Project filed the suit on behalf of.
Good.
And he says, Mutz basically says that this step is encouraging.
Yeah, I think so.
And he says this resistance to provide this information per 1421 hurts the majority of law enforcement officers themselves because it questions their credibility. Well, the majority of them are doing a good job, and they're stand-up people.
There we go.
And he's right. So you get a
few bad apples.
Yeah, was it Gebhardt, the guy that shot Andy Lopez, and
Gelhaus, I think.
Gelhaus, thank you.
Right.
And we want to see who the bad guys are because the Police Bill of Rights has given them way too much protection from public scrutiny.
Yeah. So, Matt, a good thing is happening. This is happening tomorrow, Saturday. It's the fertile ground for community voices to help set our city goals. It's happening here in Petaluma. Right. It says join in the conversation.
This is the city council.
That's right. Our new city council.
Yeah.
Meet our new city manager, Peggy Flint, and her team. Connect with our city council. The City of Petaluma Goal-Setting Workshop. It is April 6th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. I don't think you have to stay the whole time. It's at the Petaluma Community Center, 320 North McDowell Boulevard here in our good town, Petaluma.
That's at Lucchese Park.
That's right. That's right. And there will be children's activities. So, Matt, if you go, you'll be entertained.
Oh, thanks, Jim.
You're welcome.
The Citizens Climate Action Team and Indivisible Petaluma are encouraging people to show up at 8 o'clock to greet the council and just be there, if nothing else, from 8 to 9.
Just
because
as a presence.
What they want to do is they want to show that there is a constituency that says the city council needs to adopt emergency language saying that climate disruption should be the first priority of the city and that all decisions made by the city council should be done based on that recognition and that understanding.
Love that. Since we are right on a river, Matt, that does flood or has been known to flood, and we've had these torrential rains, these atmospheric rivers coming through.
And this is kind of a little bit of counterbalance to the bitter taste that many of us felt from Monday when the city council voted 4-1 to approve the Safeway gas station.
The gas stations, 4-1.
Yeah. Now that was it was tough. All those voted in favor did not want to vote for it, but they felt that their hands were tied because Safeway, with their bully attorneys,
and money,
were waiving a recent court decision in front of them, saying that this decision sets a precedent that limits your ability to call up the California Environmental Quality Act and impose CEQA as a requirement to further measure the negative impacts. Now, that particular court case is being appealed by the Sierra Club to the state Supreme Court, and they said they would hear it.
Good.
So that's got a possibility of being overturned. Now, the council felt that they were at risk of running up legal bills that Safeway could afford and Petaluma cannot.
Yeah.
And that is a legitimate concern.
Absolutely.
Folks.
Also, in retrospect, they said that they need to fix the loopholes that allowed Safeway to do this.
Well, yes. I mean, what it is that, and this was a problem when I was on the city council. You go through years of updating your general plan.
Right.
And then you need to make your zoning consistent with that. And so, this gas station is allowed under the current zoning. I personally think that the legal case was weak on Safeway's part, and that a judge, if the city went to court, a judge would say, well, a deliberative body should by rights have the ability to protect the health and welfare of its community by merely requiring an environmental impact report.
That should have been
an environmental impact report does not stop the project. It tells you what the negative impacts are and how, if you can, to mitigate them.
It. Thank you. Yeah.
And so that's what the piece that was missing. And it also does give the deliberative body often the ability to say, this is too destructive, and we do reject this project.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, hopefully lessons have been learned, and maybe the whole thing will be stopped, Matt.
And it's possible, Jim, that the opponents of the project could actually say, we're going to go out and gather signatures to pass a referendum. That would be beautiful.
And what would the referendum do?
Well, then it would counter the vote.
Good.
So one more announcement, Jim, before we go.
Yes, sir.
Mentor Me is having its annual tomato plant sale on Saturday, April 13th. That's a week from tomorrow, 9 to 5.
Where?
It's going to be at the Kavanaugh Center, 426 8th Street, the Recreation Center. And these are all grown with organic seeds, volunteer power, community support, and love.
Sounds good.
100% of proceeds benefit Mentor Me. And groups that have helped are Hillside Landscaping and Design, Landscape Unlimited, Hydro Farm, Wild Boar Farms, and I want to give a real shout out to Susie and Warren Drannett. Susie's been propagating these seeds by the thousands. and they've had help from Petaluma Seed Bank and La Tercera School. If you want more information, 778-4798 or wearementorme.org.
There's never a lack of things to do, Matt, in this community.
That's right. And folks, that's been it.
That's
You've
it.
Been two Mooks and a Mike.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for sticking with us.
All right.
Until next week.
See you next week.
Be fine.
Bye.